Okay, Kate, you can begin the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. I will call the meeting to order October 11th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. We'll do roll call of board members. Mark,
Present.
Brad,
I'm here.
Narcy,
Here.
Sonia,
Here.
and Val is not available tonight, and I'm present also. The school board will hear public comments for unscheduled public appearances received through the designated form on the district website. Patrons who wanted to comment live via Zoom should have already registered as a participant, completed the form to provide their information, and indicated they were going to provide a live comment. If you're providing your comment live as a Zoom participant, please be sure your full name is displayed in your Zoom profile. You can change that by clicking on the participants button, hover over your ID, click rename, and type in the correct information, and then select OK. Comments will be read by the district staff or delivered live via Zoom. At this time, we do not have any comments from the community. Please stand for a flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll do introductions of audience and staff now.
John O'Neill, Assistant Superintendent.
Eileen Clute, Business.
Kim Scher, Director of Student Services.
David Warner, Communications.
Enrique Piñon, IT Manager.
Kevin Noreen, Director of Human Resources.
Is that everybody?
And that's it tonight.
Okay. Oh, there's only 14 of us. Okay. Approval of tonight's agenda. Do we need a motion for that, Kathy, or yes? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good. All right. Correspondence, Dave?
No correspondence.
Student report, Sonia?
Just started our 2-week homecoming. And so today was Black and White Spirit Day. And then our football game will be next Friday. Our food pantry is up and running, and I think this past Friday we did like a special distribution. And then I think that everyone's like starting to chill out and like really get into like schoolwork, and some people are getting a little frustrated with their grades, but you know. And then like I know me personally and like some of my friends, we wanted like lockers to be available. I don't know if that's something I should like bring up to Karen O'Neill, but I know that I was just wanting to put my like athletic gear somewhere, but that's basically what I have.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sonia, what I would say is yes, touch base with your administration there. And I think through your student group would be a great way to begin to talk about some of those things about students that have those needs.
Any questions for Sonia? Thank you, Sonia. Calendar notes.
So on this, in previous years, we put under calendar notes kind of things that the board might be interested in attending and that. And since the pandemic, we haven't had as much of that go on. So I was just trying to, just wanted to touch base. What kind of things would you like to see in these calendar notes? We could just start listing many of the things going on in the schools, even if you can't go to them. But I thought I'd just kind of get your pulse and see kind of what would be most interesting here as we begin to kind of talk about what's going on in our schools.
I guess for me, I think getting back to as normal as possible. Just maybe listening to things that are going on, even though maybe we can't be there, but at least we know what's going on in the schools at this point, David.
Okay.
Kathy, what have we put in there in the past?
Oh, we put things like back to school nights, orchestra concerts, plays,
Yeah.
you know, the homecoming activities, if there's things you can participate in, the Veterans Day assembly, all those types of things that typically you would be able to attend if you wanted to.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I think the same. It's nice to see, what's going on in the schools. Yeah, I mean, I agree.
And Narcy?
I would echo the same, kind of having that calendar of events so I can participate in them as I like to be more visible, in particular, anything that might be in the evening, or if it's something during the day, I can get it on my calendar ahead of time.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to go in person. I would really like to do that. Okay.
Great.
Recognition. Anything for recognition, Dave?
No, just my superintendent comments are really kind of what I have left.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to share my screen here and we can talk through. So tonight, what I wanted to do is just kind of briefly go over kind of where we're at with this, with COVID. So I'm going to roll through some of our kind of familiar slides that we've been observing. Again, right in the middle of August is where we were hitting the tip of this peak. We are continuing to decrease. This is this whole state here. So this is the epidemiology curve for the whole state. We are seeing this surge begin to lessen. I think what's interesting, this is the 7-day moving average over the past 6 weeks. And what you'll notice here is since the end of August, beginning of September, what we've seen is kind of a gradual decrease. It's not decreasing as much as I would like to see it, but we are seeing a kind of gradual decrease. This is a new curve that the ESD is pushing out, and it basically is Washington County. The dark blue line are the total cases. And then the light blue line is the one that you're more familiar to seeing, which is the cases per 100,000. And again, I think the interesting thing here is to look at this light blue line. We are definitely cresting, but we're not also decreasing at a super fast rate. So that's, I mean, as we look at what's going on in our county, what I could say is, yes, we are decreasing. We're still about 304 cases per 100,000, which is still high transmission. So it's still something for us to definitely be concerned about. But it does look like we're seeing the top of this surge. This is a graph that they just started putting out. The pediatric percentage in the state is about 20.3%. So that means there's about 80% of in our state, about 80% of the people are adult and about 20% are kids. And what we're seeing here is at the very end here, we're at about 22% of the COVID cases are pediatric, which means that now kids are making up a larger percentage of the cases than before. And we've seen this continue. It's not increasing rapidly, but it is now over that line, which is something that we hadn't seen the whole pandemic. This is, again, the whole state of Oregon pediatric cases. The interesting thing about the pediatric cases is they tend to lag. So the actual numbers here tend to be about a week behind what we're seeing with the rest of the state. We are seeing the peak here, but we have seen some fairly large numbers compared to the other parts of the pandemic. And we're continuing to see those. And then last is just this breakdown by age group. And again, our age group of 12 to 17 are still the most impacted by COVID. 6 to 11 has come up to the same kind of range as the 12 to 17, and our 0 to 5 is still kind of bouncing back and forth around the 200 cases per 100,000. So that's kind of where we are COVID wise. I would say that we currently have kind of a, we're averaging kind of a constant number of cases. And as some kids get better, we have other kids who get sick, and we're kind of in an uneasy consistency right now. It doesn't take much for Delta to spread. So in cases where we're not paying attention to our health protocols and some of these other things, we have seen a couple of classrooms that have shown spread, and we've quarantined those classrooms. But for the most part, with our 6,000 students, we're maintaining, we're going to school. So that's kind of where we're at with COVID right now. Substitutes continues to be a really challenging problem for us. We have yet to have a single school day where we've filled all of our positions. So we have not seen a single school day where every licensed and every classified position has been filled. We're continuing to rely on staff inside the school, inside the district office, to cover in those situations. And it's really creating a lot of fatigue. We're working, we've got some plans to go out and try to, they've changed the laws at TSBC to allow more folks to qualify to be a sub. The ESD is working on increasing the pool. We're working on increasing the pool. What I would say is this is still one of the bigger challenges. It will not take much to shut us down if one of these things springs. We haven't even got to the cold and flu season yet, and we're very challenged by this. I think one of the things that we are doing, I know in my communications home, we have folks in our community who could become subs for us and work as classified or as licensed. And so I'm going to encourage our parents and our stakeholders to, now's a great time to get signed up as a sub and see if you want to work in schools, because we could certainly use the help right now. If folks are listening and interested, if you get a hold of our HR department, or the ESD is the one who actually manages our subsystem. So there's a good opportunity there. I think we have folks who could really help us at home. Transportation, they are still in the process of digging their way out. Again, we all had staffing problems at the beginning of the year, and Midco is still in the middle of that. We've combined 3 routes because we didn't have enough drivers. We're going to continue to run those combined routes. That's working right now. They have 3 individuals who will finish their training by the end of the month. But between quarantines and quarantining drivers, and then drivers who, as they get new drivers, they're losing some of their drivers who are deciding they don't want to drive. So they're still very challenged trying to get all of our routes. We are beginning to do some planning on when these drivers come in, what our next priorities are. What are the things we need to bring back? So that's the good news, is we are in that state, which is we are thinking about, okay, after this date, we're going to try and do more of our athletic runs and do more of these runs. So that is beginning to happen. We appreciate, again, it's been a real challenge at the beginning of the year. They've been good partners, and we appreciate their collaboration. So those are all the challenges that we have. I think the good news is school is happening. And as I walk around schools right now, it's just great to see kids running around at recess. And I walk into classrooms and kids are learning, and our literacy in person is happening. I know we're going to bring some assessment results to you in the next couple of weeks, but after 18 months of being in this pandemic, we have some real challenges, and getting our students in front of us and beginning to address those challenges, I think is important, and it's starting to happen. And, you know, I was telling Brad today, it feels like things are becoming, like Sonia also said, it feels like there's some, school is becoming more normal. Even though there's all these other things going on, it's feeling a little bit more like school should feel. So that's kind of where we're at with the schools. Questions on COVID, substitutes, transportation, or general literacy?
Dave, this is Narce. You said we're averaging the, you showed the graph about the pediatric COVID-19 case rates
Yeah.
for our students. What's the average for us? Is that 10%, 5%, or is it all over the place depending on the school?
Yeah, hang on one sec here. I want to say we're averaging about 20 students pretty much day in and day out, but let me hang on one second. I'll pull it open and we can take a look at that. It goes up again. Like I said, we have kids who get better, and then we have other kids who come down with this. Most of it's been out in the community, but there has been some spread inside a couple of classrooms that we ended up closing those classrooms. We're averaging right around between, here's kind of the numbers, 12, 13, 14, 21, 18, 19, 15, 14, 11, 14, 16, 19, 19, 17, 13. So again, those we go up, we go down, but we're averaging right in that 20.
And what, has there been any impact? When you say quarantine, what does that mean for the district?
So students who get COVID are isolated. So they have to stay home. We quarantine other students who are in close contact. And we need to make sure that there wasn't spread. Typically, this has happened when all of a sudden, like 3 kids in the classroom come down with COVID in the same time period. At that point, we start to look at quarantining a classroom. Otherwise, we're just quarantining individual kids who are close to that student.
And for the kiddos that are in isolation, is there an impact with the families or the parents, or are they somebody at home with them? Is lunch taken to them, or what does that look like?
So for the students, when it's several students in a classroom, the teachers coordinate with the parents, and most of it is kind of offline, asynchronous. When we do a whole classroom, what we've done so far is we have taken, and there's like, let's say it happens on a Monday. Tuesday, we don't do school for that classroom, and the teacher takes that 8 hours to prepare. And then they start basically on Zoom on Wednesday. That's kind of how we've gone. And when it's the whole classroom, then they're doing pretty much live instruction for most of the day.
Any other questions for Dave? Thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. Tonight, we do not have any unscheduled public appearances, so I'm going to move on to the consent. Is made up of routine, non-controversial items to be voted on under one motion. Are there any items within the consent items a board member or the superintendent wishes to discuss separately? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion? Mark, are you a yes or a no?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Narcy?
Yes.
And I'm a yes also. The motion passes. Tonight, we have a presentation on the budget update by Eileen.
Thank you. Let me. So tonight we have the general fund budget update for the fall. It's the first update of the year now that we have payroll rolled forward and we have the first months of operating expenditures going. So we'll go through a few things. Wanted to start tonight with just going over the final 2020-2021 fiscal year and that cash flow and how we ended. It is pre-audit. However, we just finished our audit last week. And so I don't anticipate any changes from what you will see today. Overall, for our cash flow for last year, everything I'll show tonight is 2 years historical, the budget for the year, and then this is the final pre-audit numbers for 2020, 2021, how it compared to budget, and then how it compared to the cash flow that was done in April of last year. That cash flow was used to generate our beginning fund balance for this current fiscal year. So overall, we were up about $7.6 million, and we ended at a 20% ending fund balance. Most of that is going to be in the expenditure savings. We saved almost $6.2 million last year, and that's primarily due to the COVID shutdown. So that's the reduced subs and temp time that we didn't have, and utilities and transportation and custodial. So all of those things that we didn't have for 3/4 of the year last year generated this savings. We did have $1.5 million in additional revenue, and almost all of that was beginning fund balance from the year prior that was rolled forward. So overall, we ended at 20% ending fund balance. And that was up $1.1 million higher than what we had projected in April from primarily labor and benefits. We did, closing out the school year, we were able to utilize a lot of grants that were expiring and closing out for the year. So we utilized as much as we could with what we could, COVID-related savings in the last 2 months of the year. So that's a closeout of last year. Is there any questions before I move on to the current year? Okay. So this current 2021-2022 fiscal year's forecast shows, this is a summary, 2 years historical, the current year's budget, actual July through September, the forecast through the end of the year, and then the combined forecast through June. And then the last column is how it compares to the adopted budget. Overall, we're about $400,000 more in revenue than what was in the budget, primarily because of the beginning fund balance, and then that was offset from the state resources, our loss of enrollment, basically. And then our expenditures are down by $1.9 million, netting about a $2.3 million savings for this current fiscal year. Looking at our resources in more detail, and then I'll give this to you guys in a PDF format so you could look at it later if you want. So resources overall, the big changes is interest is down $15,000 for the first quarter compared to what we had planned to receive for the first quarter. I do see that continuing through the rest of the year. I don't see our interest rates rising any more than what they're at right now. And then we have our recovery of expenditures of $12,000 offset. That is our safe dividend that we receive in the fall. It was significantly, well, $12,000 higher than budget. Then our state school fund was down by $731,000. That's all due to enrollment loss. And then the last piece here is that general fund ending fund balance from last year getting rolled forward into this year. So that's our revenue in detail. A little bit of explanation on these. Talked about our interest rates and our enrollment. We do have a new heavy equipment tax in the state of Oregon, and that is here, this county HERT tax, $7,600. That's all we've received year to date, but I'm not sure how that's going to impact us moving forward. It's a brand new tax that got implemented last year, and this is our first payment on it. So at this point, I just have our actual revenue for it. And as we start seeing what's coming in, we'll be able to forecast a little bit better. But the HERT tax is a tax on rentals of heavy equipment, and then it's distributed based on ad valorem taxes. And since we as districts get property taxes that's based on the ad valorem, then we then get a distribution of that rental tax. State school fund is down because of the enrollment. In this forecast, I have built into it what that enrollment loss looks like to Forest Grove School District. But since our revenue is based on an equalization formula, in November and December, ODE will kind of rebalance the state as we kind of find out how all districts in the state landed with their enrollment. So we should probably see an adjustment here in the next couple of months on that. So that's our resources. Our enrollment, since that's the biggest driver in our resources right now in our state funding, I wanted to show just kind of where we are in enrollment overall. This is the last 10 years enrollment for October 1st each year. The difference between 14-15 and 15-16 is the implementation of full day kinder. So that significant increase is kind of skewed a little bit because we went from only having kinders half at 0.5 to a 1.0. So that was that jump. But overall, we kind of stayed in that 6,200 students until COVID hit. And then we lost 348 students last year. We had budgeted, this is our budget column here. We had budgeted that we would gain back 173 of those students, where we only gained back 80 students. So that loss of 93 students is what you see as that reduction in the state school fund. Okay. Looking at expenditures in more detail for this current year, I'm going to start at the easy ones, the services, supplies, materials, capital, all of the building budgets, department budgets. I'm pretty much assuming that everybody's going to spend as according to budget at this point in the year. We haven't made any significant changes for that. But labor and benefits, we are seeing a significant reduction in labor and benefits. It's almost $2 million for this year. And at first, I was telling Cabinet this morning that at first when I looked at it, I was really surprised and I was like, this isn't right. But as I started looking into it, one of the biggest things that I seen, there's a few factors into it, but one of the biggest things that I seen was kind of our employee turnover or our expansion in grants. So with our COVID funds and our ESSER funds, and then SSA funds, what ended up happening is people took positions that were already in our district and already in the general fund into these grants and into these grant funded positions. And then we backfilled some of these positions with new hires that are temporary. So in turn, we are taking the higher experienced teachers and IAs that have been with our district that are higher on the salary schedule. And now they're getting funded out of grants. And now these new employees that are lower on the salary schedule are in the general fund. And so we had this significant, this shift this year. So not only did we have our normal attrition and our normal retirements and our normal turnover, but then it was compounded with that. So I went and looked at our new hires, and from the time that I built the budget last winter to now, we have 94 staff members in the general fund with a hire date from March 1st to now. So that kind of showed that shift. In addition, our average daily rate. So when I looked at our average license rate and our average classified rate, daily rate for our employees from what was built into the budget from actual people that were in place at the time to the actual staffing in our general fund today, they both dropped about 1.8%. So when we're looking at a budget of $39 million, 1.8%, pretty significant. I mean, that's a big shift. And then that was also compounded again by the new hires coming on board with OPSRP, so a lower retirement rate versus tier 1, tier 2. A lot of our experienced staff are tier 1, tier 2 at 19% benefits for the retirement, whereas new hires is only at 15.9% cost to the district. So we had that reduction in cost too. I do have a caution in here just as a note, because as these short-term grants expire, those staff members and those employees that are sitting in those grants are then going to get shifted back into the general fund next year and the year after. And these and the short-term temporary staff aren't going to be there anymore. So we're going to have, I'm planning for a reverse impact in, it's a 1-year savings. So we'll end up seeing that shift again next year or the year after as those grants expire. The second thing that we did is in the budget, we had 2.0 FTE that we held to help support class size bubbles. But with the loss of enrollment, we did not end up hiring those 2.0 FTE to help support that offset in the state school fund reduction. And then we had a 1.0 FTE that we shifted to online school rather than general fund, and that is supported by our ESSER funds. In the salaries and benefits, it does include the new COLA increases. Our budget was 2%, and we actually came out at 2.5% COLA for licensed, admin, confidential, and directors, and then 3% for our classified. So it does include that increase in COLA for our employee groups. This is, whenever I do a cash flow, I like to look at what does it look like if I were to roll it forward one more year. And this is a very broad view. It's a very broad projection of just what if. So this is all of it's a summary of the forecasts that I just showed you with an added column to the right, future projection of 22, 23. Very, very few changes in here. A 4% property tax increase, maintaining current enrollment. It's the second year of the state school fund, so we know what that funding level is. So that's in there. And then maintaining our current staffing levels. So if we maintain everybody that's in place today, estimate a COLA in there, and then maintain all of our spending levels. We, at this point, are looking like next year we would end around a 5.9%, 6% ending fund balance. Since it's so early in the year, that's not a bad place to be. It's pretty good. We will have to make some prioritizations, but overall, it's the COVID funds and the ESSER grants have really been able to help support us in maintaining our low class size this year without making any adjustments. Now, again, those are one-time funds, so we will have to have conversations during budgeting and do some prioritization, but it's a good place to be, for sure. Any questions on this? Sorry, it is a lot of information, so if you guys do have any questions later, please feel free to reach out to me. Lastly, I just have a few notes here that we're going to continue to monitor enrollment each month to just track it to make sure it's holding steady and there's not going to be any other surprises. We will watch to see the state school fund adjustments and the statewide reconciliations of the equalization formula and see how that's going to impact us. Now that we have first quarter grants and labor in those grants, we're going to be reviewing all of those and making sure everything is where it needs to be for the year. And then just the last note, it's still really early in the year. It's the best information we have right now. We're still doing hiring and we're still making adjustments and things are still moving. So, yeah.
Any questions for Eileen? Comments?
The only comment I would have is that's a pretty good snapshot of where we are right now. But it, like Eileen said, it's really early.
Eileen, thank you. That was very, very informative. You're just doing an excellent job, and I love how you communicate the budget. It's just really understandable. So we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate.
I think I would like to echo what Eileen said, which is currently we staffed it like K4 24-1, and we're lower than that right now. And with these funds, what Eileen has shown is that we can maintain that. But there's a reconciliation coming up this spring. And that's, I know she said that, I just want to highlight that because we will have to align our level of staffing to the actual enrollment coming up this spring. And so there's some hard work out in front of us. And again, hopefully as this pandemic gets better and we pull more kids back towards the school, but I just want to highlight that it's sitting out there.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I think is pretty wonderful right now when I looked at the enrollment page is that except for Fern Hill, all of the K through 4, at least K through 3rd grade are low. And that really benefits catching up, getting the kids' skills caught up. And so that's sort of a silver lining in this, even though the enrollment's down. You know, I wish we could maintain these forever. I mean, they're just perfect numbers. So thank you, Eileen.
Thank you.
All right, where are we now? I think we're at the action items now, superintendent's goals. So we looked at them last time. I don't think there was any comments to update or do anything like that. So we need a motion to approve the superintendent's goals for the 2021-22 school year as presented.
So moved, Kate.
A second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Narcy?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And I'm a yes also. The motion passed. The next motion, the next action item is the superintendent evaluation timeline for 21-22. I don't think there was any adjustments on that either. So do I have a motion to approve the timeline?
So moved, Kate.
All right, a second?
I second.
Discussion? We'll do a roll call vote. Brad?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Narcy?
Yes.
And I'm a yes also. The motion passes. And the last action item is the superintendent's evaluation criteria for 2021-2022. I will move to approve the superintendent's evaluation criteria for 21-22.
Second.
Discussion? All right. We'll do a roll vote. Narcy?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. The motion passes. Mark, did you want to talk at this point about Corregio and your discussion with them?
Yeah. So we've used the Corregio group for the last 4 years, I believe. And they have been the group that's effectively collected the data for the 360-degree evaluation for the superintendent. And I believe the last 3 years, we have done a 360-degree evaluation that it's an electronic survey of staff members, of community stakeholders, of other superintendents, and the Corregio group has collected that data and presented it to the board as part of the evaluation for the superintendent. So the question that we asked last 2 weeks ago was, do we want to do a little bit more in-depth 360-degree evaluation this year? And what that might mean is, instead of just doing the electronic survey that's sent out by the Coraggio group and tabulated, it could mean, and I believe we did this 4 years ago, it could mean one-on-one interviews with individuals in the community and in the district, and then also one-on-one conversation interviews and a focus group. So there's three. When I talked to the Coraggio group, they gave me 3 scenarios for this year. One was our typical, what we've done for the last 3 years, the electronic survey that's sent out by them electronically to the community and staff and stakeholders and other superintendents. They gave me a cost for that one at about $6,700, maybe $6,800. I know as a board, we talked about what the costs were with all of these. We just wanted to have a sense of that. So that one, which is one we've done for the last 3 years, is about $6,800, which it's gone up by a little bit, I'll have to say.
Yeah,
And
about
so-
$1,000.
Right. So I'll have to, it was just a conversation with them and myself today. And so I'll have to get back to them about that. But so that one was $6,800. The next one was the survey, but also one-on-one interviews with individuals in the community and on the staff. And that one, the price range on that one was about $11,000. It was a little under 11, 10,700, I think. And then the third option was the electronic survey, some one-on-one interviews, and then also meeting with focus groups. And so that one was right in the range of $13,000, a little over $13,000 for that one. So, the more you want them to do one-on-one interviews or interviews with focus groups, then the cost goes up. I think that's all I have to report from the Coraggio group. We were talking earlier, I don't think the board has to make any kind of a decision on this today, or I think it's just information at this point. But, so.
Yeah. It's interesting, the price range.
Right. Yeah. It's he did send me a proposal. I don't know, Kathy, can I share that individually with board members, or how do I, so that a board member can look at it?
If you want to send it to me, I can send it out to the rest of the board. Okay.
I'll do that. I'll forward it to you, because they do break it down in there with how many one-on-one interviews, how many focus groups. And I'm not going into that level of detail tonight, but I think if we get it to each of the board members, they can kind of look at it and see the details of it. So.
Yeah, I'll get it out to them.
Okay.
Any questions for Mark? Okay, thanks, Mark, for negotiating and coordinating.
Well, I haven't negotiated yet.
Oh, that's right, you haven't. You've coordinated. Right, we haven't did that.
Yeah.
All right, the next item is future action items. And if you scroll to the future board items, when we met in leadership, Narcy and Dave and Kathy last week, we would like to recommend that we remove the local option levy and also the strategies for improving academics during CDL. If you guys are in agreement with that. I think the local option was in 2018, and I believe that I put that up because we were looking to reduce class sizes, and the discussion was, could we do a local option to have additional revenue so our elementary class sizes would be smaller, and we have been fortunate that we've had the classes really smaller since Dave has joined forces. So it doesn't seem really pertinent now to be on the agenda. And if everybody's agreed, we'll just remove that if that's okay.
Sounds fine to me.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. And Narcy? Yep. Okay. And the CDL, we're no longer in the CDL strategies. So that really doesn't make sense to keep on there.
Yeah.
So, Narcy and I were in agreement to remove it. How are you? And Brad, how do you guys feel?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. There is an enrollment report, and I just have a couple questions. I don't know if John is still there, but I just wanted to just make a couple comments. I'm looking at it, and so I see at Echo Shaw, the numbers are, one class for 6th grade at Echo Shaw is 30 kids, and then the other class is 25. Do they need additional support there at Echo Shaw for that 6th grade class, or is that okay?
They can balance between the two classes. So what happens is with enrollment coming in and turnover, sometimes it becomes a little bit lopsided on one grade level or another.
Yeah. Well, and I know it's just the first, month of school too. So I was curious about that. And, I looked at Joseph Gale, and the 4th grade classes are really high. 29, 70, 27, 29. Are they getting some extra support?
Not at this time.
No. Are the teachers doing okay?
So I walked to Joe Gale the other day and had a conversation. And so it's challenging. I've used that word a lot tonight. I apologize. But what I would say is Troy's aware of it, and they're working through some of those issues. It is, again, if you're looking through that, I mean, it's amazing class to class inside a school. One set is at 18, and then right next to them, they're seeing some larger bubbles. Most of the principals are working with their IAs and such to kind of help and balance. The problem is we can't fill all our IA positions right now. So it's hard to do that, but we're aware of those situations and kind of working through them, Kate.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking also of how do you manage distancing with that number in a classroom? I mean, I don't know, how do you do that?
So staying between 3 and 6 feet in the classroom is definitely a challenge. And the more kids that we put in there, that becomes moving those classrooms out. What I can tell you is, again, 3 feet is 9 square feet. Most of our classrooms run around 900 square feet. Now, you can't put somebody in the corner, so it's not a perfect calculation, but there's still plenty of room to put 30 kids inside of a 900 square foot. But there's some challenge.
Yeah.
I've used that word again. I got to come up with a new word. Sorry.
The other, Fern Hill, their 4th grade, one of their 4th grade classes is 23 and the other is 27. That seems a little, I don't know, a little off balance, but I'm sure you guys, I don't know, maybe you guys know what's going there. The last thing I have is Calc is at 31. That seems pretty low.
I would expect what we see in Calc is the numbers continue to rise as the year goes on. So I would expect us to continue, but this will be, we're going to have Calc come and present on the next board meeting. to
Oh,
begin
good,
to talk about the program, because there's a lot more kids that we could be engaging with their program. They have a really good program, and it's one that's similar to Newburgh, which I'm familiar with. But currently you all know this, our facility doesn't really allow the expansion of that program much. And so when we start getting up above 60, 70 kids in that space, it's really hard to run school there. And so I know we're going to be bringing towards you more conversations about how do we improve the facilities for that program, because in a 2,000 student high school, we could easily fill 150 slots of kids who need something a little bit different. If we could also find a way to collaborate with the high school so that kids can still do their CTE and do their PE, I think we could even see a better usage of that site. So it's all things that we're going to be talking a lot about coming up, but they're going to present at the next meeting so that we begin to learn more about their program.
And Kate, that enrollment report, it shows Calc at 52. I
Oh,
was there the other day and saw 32.
well, I
kids.
just printed this off, so I wonder why it says 31 on mine. But anyway, 52 sounds better.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'll take 52. Okay. All right. Anyone else have any questions for Dave or anybody else? Nope. All right. There's also a financial report that you can review. And if there's no further business, I will adjourn the meeting at 6:21. And our next meeting is October 25th. So everybody have a good night. And Brad and Mark, we made it on time for you to go watch the game.
Okay.
Have a good night. Have a good week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kate.